Thanks again for stopping by my channel. In this video, I decided that I would narrate some of the techniques that I use while painting walls. And this room was painted in about 2.5 hours. As you can see, the wall that I just panned over was the last wall that was painted once, one coat. And so we started painting the second coat on the walls, and this is how we begin. We first take a brush and recoat the top. And you can see that the color is different as he's rolling it on horizontally from the paint just above it that was painted with a brush. So we're going as close as possible with that roller to the ceiling. Why is that? Why do we paint it horizontally? For those of you who are new at painting, would you care to take a guess at it? Well, like I told you, see at the very top there? That was painted with a brush. But the texture left by a brush and the texture left by a roller is different. Ideally, you want everything painted with the same applicator. You really would want to paint that 1.5 inches above the light blue line with the roller. But you can't, because the ceiling's going to get hit. And it's just the way professional painters do it. Could you tape off the ceiling and do it with masking paper? Sure you could. But you would oftentimes interfere with the white color of the ceiling by either pulling some of it off, leaving a glue residue. You don't want to do that. And so this is the next best thing. You get as close to the ceiling as you can, rolling horizontally. What you're going to see is that the entire wall, when we get to the end, is going to be wet. You see that the top is wet, and this is what's called keeping a wet edge. As he's rolling that paint up and down, you will see that he overlaps the paint every 50%. You see where that roller lands? Look how he brings it over to go over half of what he already did. And why is that? The reason for that is so that the layer of paint that you're putting on the wall is nice and thick. If you do that for 2 coats, overlapping like that, how many times does your wall really get painted? Isn't it 4? If you do that on the first coat, everything's getting 2 coats of paint, right? So if you put 2 coats of paint on it and you keep overlapping like that, you're getting 4 layers of paint on your wall. And why do you want to do that? You want the wall to look the same on the left, on the right, in the middle, at the top, and on the bottom. If you sparingly apply that paint, you will see bald spots, holidays, and roller marks on your wall or whatever else you're painting. So that's tip number 1. While you're rolling, overlap your columns by 50%. Secondly, you want to roll the full length of the wall. You see how he starts near the top, rolls upward. You never want to start at the top. If you start at the top, you'll have pooling of paint at the top. So you have to choose an area about 12 inches from the top to start to land that roller like he's doing now. And then ideally you roll upward as close as you can go to the ceiling, and then roll straight down. Don't go crooked. Straight down from the top in one uninterrupted rolling of the applicator. Please let me explain once again. If you're dealing with 8 to 10 feet of wall, you can have an extension pole that can very easily roll your paint from the top of the wall to the bottom. Now, when we get into longer walls, like 15 to 20 feet, that becomes more difficult. One, you need a roller that can handle a higher capacity of paint. If you were looking to cover a wall that's 15 feet high, right? But when you're dealing with long walls, what you wind up doing is interrupting the stroke of the roller from the top to the bottom. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. If you were dealing with a 25-foot wall, okay, you would be interrupting the flow of the roller. But most of the times, we're not painting walls that high, right? And so, ideally, you want to roll in one continuous pattern. Once you land the roller at the top, you draw that roller straight down in as straight a column as you can do it, all the way to the bottom. When you hit the bottom, your trim should be taped off, and you touch that tape and pull your roller off of the trim. Now, we have a very nice consistency on that wall. You see the part of the roller I'm pointing at, that metal piece? That is the arm of what's called the roller cage. The roller part itself is called a sleeve, but the metal part that keeps the roller on is part of the roller cage, and that metal part on the left there, that's the arm of the roller cage. That's the handle. Now, wouldn't you agree, since it only has one side, that one side is going to receive all of the force of this painter's arm? Think about it. If you push up against that roller, what's going to happen? If you really pushed, where would you get a ridge? On the right or on the left? You would get more of a ridge on the right, because the roller is going to absorb the force of his arm pressing up against it and form a ridge. But guess what? It forms a ridge anyway. And you want to roll in the direction of the roller cage arm. You see how we just switched the roller? If the roller cage arm is on the wrong side as you're rolling, well, you'll be leaving ridges on the left side, and you'll be moving right hand. If you're moving right hand and the arm is on the left, you're leaving all of those ridges behind. The way you hold the roller is very important. You see how that arm is now to the right? You see, he's making a tiny ridge as he goes down there. You see that? You can't see the ridge, but guaranteed there's a ridge there. But he eliminates it by continuing to roll in that direction, right? And he gets rid of the ridge as he rolls over it. If you turn that roller around and you don't know how to use that cage, you will inevitably see ridges. I see it all the time. And the biggest offenders are homeowners. You see, we're rolling toward the right, and that arm that inevitably produces a slight ridge is going to be your worst enemy if you don't know how to use it. It's very difficult to put an equal amount of pressure on the left and right hand sides of a roller cage because of that arm. The arm receives the pressure of the painter, and then, of course, it manifests itself in a slight ridge. Please don't make the mistake of making the ridge against the direction in which you're painting. Let me tell you something else about rolling out a wall. If you have two people painting a room, that's great. But only one person paints a wall. It's okay for John to be on one wall and Bill to be on another wall. But John and Bill finished their own walls by themselves. Why is that? Because Bill presses a little lighter than his friend helping him. And if you have disproportionate amounts of volume of material on the wall, because one guy's pressing a little lighter and the other guy's pressing a little harder, guess what? You have another wall to paint over. You see what he's doing there? He just made a little correction on the wall. And so can you do that while you're painting on the second coat? Sure, as long as you do what he's doing right now. He fans out that paint. He redistributes it with going over it. You don't want to go back there where I'm pointing. Once you paint the wall, leave the wall painted. Don't go back 3, 4, 5 feet and think that you're going to roll new paint on that wall. Please, it drives me crazy to see painters taking their roller after a minute and then they touch something up because someone banged into it or something. You just forget it, just repaint the wall. You want perfection? It's got to be all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, in the same pressure, in the same speed, with the same amount of materials on the wall and on the roller. There's so much to know about painting a wall. But if you know how to paint one wall, guess what? You know how to paint 4 walls. You know how to paint a room. And so this video is about painting a wall. But what is it really about? It's about painting any walls and your entire house. If you don't master the art of rolling out a wall, your house is going to look terrible, even if you spend $75 a gallon of paint. I think I covered all that I can in this video. Thanks for stopping by my channel, and thank you so much. Give us a like and subscribe, please.